everybody, welcome back. So I am very hopeful I'm going to get this thing done and edited and up for Friday night Halloween. We'll see. This machine is inspired by Saturday afternoon horror movies on a black and white TV set. You know? If you've ever seen Young Frankenstein, you'll know where Frau Blucher comes from. We've got a cast of characters down here. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, of course. And back here's 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞, who is Frau Blucher. And of course, the namesake of it all, Abby Normal, if you've seen Young Frankenstein. So let me go ahead, get all of her parts together, and we'll get her put back together. Okay, so one of the first things I've done is tip her up on her back, and it's because I'm going to be working up here in the nose. It's easier if she's facing up. But I wanted to show you, I don't know if you saw, I had a video that she had a crack in her bed. And it is super, super hard. It's very secure. I did paint over it, so it kind of blends right now. So I'm not worried about that at all. At all. Okay, so first thing, there's a boatload of stuff that's going to happen here. Okay, but over on this side, there's a spring that's going to go on here, and I'm going to go ahead and get that set in. Just to get it out of the way. Okay, so this is the spring. There's a little hole here for my screw to go through, and this kind of sits over this pin. And I'm just going to get that started in here and then cinch it up with my screwdriver. Okay. Very good, very good. If you remember, I did not take all of this stuff out from inside, but as you can see, it's nice and clean. And I'm turning the little knob underneath here, and it's moving well. Not super easy, but you want it to be slightly stiff so that it's going to hold its place, you know. So that is good. And let's see here. This should be a bit springy here. I'm going to put a little bit more oil in there. There's an oil hole here. Actually, I need to tip it upright right here to put oil in, just to make sure everything's good. Okay, so as this moves, I think we're going to be okay. Let me play with it for just a bit and make sure everything is as it should be, because once I close this up, it's done. So I want to make sure it's all oiled right now. Okay, I had to lift her up. If you remember, the wheel did not want to come off, so sometimes we just leave them be. So everything is moving as it should. You see how this arm, it has a little bit of a spring to it, and it changes position based on where that cog is. And the spring that's in there is keeping this pushed up against it. And I think that is good. Feeling confident about that. So I'm going to go ahead and put her back up right here and work on my little plate here. Now the plate itself, this is just the way it is. The plating was completely worn here, I guess from years of people flicking the lever. And up here it was completely worn, and I think that's okay. I cleaned it the best I could, but honestly it's kind of in keeping with the rest of the theme of the machine, so that doesn't really bother me. Okay, so this little hooky part goes in that slot. And up here, there's going to be a nut, or a bolt, sorry about that. This is going to move back and forth to pull the thread out. It's kind of like, instead of a thread take-up lever, it's a thread side-to-side kind of thing. Okay, so putting that down, there's also a spring. And I need to get this spring. This side is going to hook in this little slot here like that. And then the top part here is going to fit into that little hole in the casting right on top. Okay, so I'm going to set that in that hole right there. The spring is on here, pushing it up, sticking the slidey part in that slot. Get my screw on the starter here. Now it's a slightly shouldered screw, so you need to make sure that that shoulder is fitting in the little springy part. So if you screw it in all the way, you should have a nice snappy spring, which I do, so that is great. Okay, so thinking about presser foot here, I'm going to put some oil in these holes. And I have this little piece, so I'm going to put oil on that slot also, and the slidey part. Okay, sliding this into place. Okay, come on, go into place. This needs to be able to move up and down freely. I did not paint it, so there's no clearance issue, so I'm just going to let that sit there for a second. Okay, and get my presser foot. Let's push it up from the bottom here. Paying attention. Hang on, let me see if I can move you down a bit here. All right, we have this screw. This screw hole is going to line up with this. All right, and so I'm going to keep pushing it up until those two match up. And I know that the foot's going the right direction. If your foot's doing that, that's wrong. Make sure your foot looks like this, okay? And the screw for that one was actually blued. Isn't that lovely? So I'm going to go ahead and get that set in, which is going to secure my foot placement. Okay, and there is a spring coming down from the top. And a finial that I'm just going to get started screwing in up here. It's a very long one. Just do it until the threads show on the bottom. There we go. All right, so, ooh, that's a lot of spring. Okay, looking good so far. Now on the back here, this little thread cutter piece is going to go on. And there are two screws here. There's a smaller one, you know, relatively, and a larger. Well, one is longer but has a smaller head. That's what I'm calling smaller, okay? I'm going to grab that one first. Okay, so getting that lined up. This is going in the bottom here. There we go, and now I'm getting the one with the larger head, and that is going up here on the top. Okay, get those cinched up. Okay, all right. Well, that's pretty much it just for the presser bar. There's lots more to come though. Alrighty, so I'm just going to try to get some oil in here where there's movement, and inside of here where it's going to be up against a bearing, and that little bearing is right here. Okay, so this little piece, that fork is going to slide over that bearing. I need to lift you up. Sorry about that. Pushing that in place. Oh, smoosh up for me, will ya? Okay, now on the bottom here, this part is inside this little cutout area of the presser foot, okay, like that. And up here, that is on the bearing. This is in this little area over here. And I think that is good for right now. Something does not look right there. There is something. Hang on a sec. Not sure what this is. It's just a piece of lint, I guess. I don't even know what that is. Maybe lint from when I was cleaning it? I thought I got it clean. Okay. All right, we're good. Let's pop that back up again. Okay, that looks better. I just didn't like fuzz. All right, so I'm just going to set this plate aside for a minute and do some stuff on the machine itself. This little screw is going to go in here. Come on, little screw. Okay, let me get that cinched in. That is up against a little bumper pad of sorts right there. And then up here on the top, this is going to go on like that. Hang on, let me get the screw ready. This screw is also blued or blackened or however you want to call it, you know. So let me get that started. I think I might have a little bit of paint in those threads, but that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so now that is on. Okay, while I'm doing random things, I'm going to go ahead and get this little thread guide put back on. It's going to screw in right here. It's pointing towards the front, I believe. Let me go double check. Oh, it's not. It is pointing towards the center. Glad I checked that. I'm going to get this screwed in here. Oops. Okay, that's pretty good. The thread just slides underneath there, like that. Okay, so then this is my needle bar. It's actually a bar, throwing oil all over there. This bearing here is going to be riding in that slot. So let's just see what that's going to look like for a second here before we close everything up. All right, so this spring that I put on before is the guide to make sure that this stays where it needs to on that side. And this little bar here keeps it in its proper position that way. So if I turn the wheel, let's pretend that I have it attached and everything. It is going to, that bearing is going to slide through there, and that is good. Okay. The tricky part is putting it together, because you see we've got two bearings here, all right? And those need to fit in here. The taller one, or the one that sticks out farther, needs to go in this part in the back. The one that is not sticking out as far needs to go in here. So it's kind of a game. And I'm not going to show you me fighting this, but just understand it's a whole bunch of, oopsie, I have that upside down. That would help, you know, of making sure that everything is just right and popping it on, you know. That was getting frustrating, so I'm changing my attack. I am going to put this on here, and I took off this little piece. I'm going to put that back on after, and I loosened up that spring on the side just so I have free range of movement while I'm working here. So I'm going to try to set the bearings into the right little groove this way first. Move that over there. Okay, it's snapped into place. So when I move this up and down, everything is moving at this point. Now, this little bracket that I put on the top is going to be going eventually, once this is in place, up here to keep the spacing up here correct. But for right now, I'm going to try to just put it back on so I only have to line up one obvious cam and not everything and their brother at the same time. And this down here is going to need to fit into this corner. Nope, nope, that was not it. Okay, let me turn the wheel so this is down closer to the bottom. That might be helpful. Oh, maybe that's a little too low. Let's go halfway. Oh, shoot. I think I pulled this out so that it's not in the right spot now. Ugh. I think I've got it snapped on, but before I celebrate or screw anything in, I want to turn this wheel and make sure everything is moving. This is moving, that is moving, and this is moving. Yes. So everything is in place, which is great. All right. I have 3 screws. Sorry about that. I got 3 screws here, here, and here, and then one with a wing on it that's going to go here to hold it all together. Okay, so now that that is in, I'm going to go ahead and screw this little bracket here back on. And hoping for the best. Okay, so if I lift this, it is moving up and down. If I turn the wheel, things are moving. I still need to get, more stuff put together in here, but we are going in the right direction. Okay, I want to go ahead and get this needle clamp back on. See that little pin sticking out? This is going to go on there. And I have this little nut that comes in the back. Now, the needle that was in here, I went ahead and cleaned it up. It's a very, very long needle. And I think that this is a good needle. I need to, first of all, make sure that this is actually going to work with it. And because sometimes people put the wrong needles in, that happens. But if it does work in it, then we need to figure out what size this is, because I looked up on my spaceship and they make different years of those Boyle needle spaceship things. And the years that I have, it says for a Davis machine, they only have 2 options, a Davis rotary and a Davis new, they call it. And both of those are not this size, so... All right, this little groove is going to start to slant upwards right about where that line is. So the flat part is up against there. And now I'm just going to screw that down. And this is not going to be functioning exactly right now because I don't have the plate there. So this is not the right height. So I may need to go ahead and put that needle plate in just to see how these are going to ride. If you haven't seen it before, this is what I'm talking about with my spaceship, because it looks like a Death Star. And looking over here for Davis, all I have is Davis new and Davis rotary. So that would be the needle tube number 10 would be Davis for Davis new, and number 6 for rotary. But both of these are too short, so... I only have 1 tube of number 10. These are tricky to find, but you've got these little tubes, so they're fun to go fortune hunting for. And that actually might be it. I don't know. I'll play with this a little bit later when we're getting it timed up, but I just wanted to show you that this is the thing that I'm talking about over here. Okay, so this is a walking foot machine, so there are no feed dogs. And let's see here. This is interesting because it's got these 2 holes in it. And those holes are for the needles to go through. So it's almost like they were saying if this side ever worn out, you can switch it around to that side. And it looks like both of them were used over there. So that's interesting, because there's definitely not a needle going down right here. All right, I've got the plate on. I'm just going to stick a paper towel under here and see if the walking foot is going to move this correctly. Turn down my finial a bit. Okay, so it goes down, pushes it, and yes, I am making forward progress here. You probably cannot see, but it is pushing forward. So that's good. That is good. I feel good about that. Let me turn it the other direction and see what happens. Well, all the way towards the back is very, very small. Let's go all the way towards the front. I don't think this is going to have a very long stitch length available, but we'll do the best we can. It needs to be able to come all the way back. Pulling back. Okay, I think I might have this little spring a bit too tight. So get my bit back in here. I'm going to back that off just a bit, just to see if that helps to get a bigger stitch. Not really. Not really, so I might as well put it back up. Once it's upright and everything, we can do more of this kind of stuff, but I just wanted to make sure it was actually going to function at this point. So that is good. That is good. Okay, I'm going to lean her down for a bit. We have the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐸 bobbin winder. Yeah, ha ha ha, because of that strategic placement there. So let me get a pad underneath here and get all of this stuff together. Okay, I was calling this the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐸 machine, you know, but maybe I should call it the Frau Blücher machine because that's the name that's on there. But I have horses, so we don't want any of that kind of mayhem happening here. Alrighty, what to do first? Let's get this big piece on. That is not correct. This, with the little slot opening, is actually the one that's going to go here. Okay, and let's throw oil on the back here. There's a slot in the casting. This is going to be going upside down if I remember right. No, that can't be. It has to be the big one. Hang on just 1 sec. All right. Silly me, I completely forgot there was a slot there. This goes through the slot. Yes. All right, so let me get this through here. And this is the adjustment point. It can go up or down, okay? I want it to be up close enough to that little threaded area that the wheel's going to turn. Not so much that it's going to bind up. And that's looking pretty good right now, so let me go ahead and get this nut on the back. Come on. And get that tightened up. Okay, so now the follower arm on this, it's not the regular one where there's a spring in here. It just goes flat on there. This little pin goes in this groove here. And then there is a screw that is going to hold it all together. I went ahead and put a tire on it and got this so it's spinning very freely. And now we're going to attach it in its strategic position here with this big bolt. It's going to come off the back. But you know what? Before I do that, I have this spring and there's a little nub that sticks out of the back of the machine right here, which that part of the spring is going to go on to. Come on, little spring, do your thing. I think I have that backwards. Okay, and then this hook, and I'm going to need to rebend it. There's a hole right here that this hook is going to go on to. So let's go ahead and get that attached here first. I'm going to need to reform the little end so it's secure. Okay, so that is on now. So if I know my hands are going to be in the way, it's just life right now. I need to stretch this over that and then line it up so that this bolt is going to go right there. Okay, so observe the fun here. This knob right here comes out. When this comes out, this pulls in so it's making contact with the wheel. And we'll hopefully spin. Well, the wheel is turning. I'm just going very slowly here, okay? You can kind of see the little rubber turn. All right. When I'm not using the bobbin winder and I need this to be away, can I just push it down again? Oh, I have that off center, I think. There's a little hole in the casting that the end of this piece settles into. There it goes. You see that? It just popped in. All right. So do that again. This is a big shouldered screw, so you should have a little bit of play that way. So I lift it up and the whole thing slightly tweaks over, okay? When it slightly tweaks over, you have a bobbin winder. And trust me, it is turning, okay? When you're done, you lift this up and push it over until that snaps back down, and then you have a gap here. A little gap, but it is a gap. So that's pretty cool. That's how that is working. I love the Elvira bobbin winder. Yes, I am 12 years old today. Let's try that one more time. The spring is very stout, and it is that spring that is holding it up against the wheel. But if you look really closely at the cog where this part is turning, I think you can see that it is moving. Okay, but I'm just turning very slowly. If this was not turning, that might mean that this gear is too far away or too close and it's binding up. And in that case, you would need to loosen, well, the nut that's on the back that you can't get to now. So make sure you do that ahead of time. Okay, let me go ahead and disengage this. And we can move on to stuff underneath. Well, the bottom side of these machines are pretty simplistic. Thankfully, all of the, chaos happens up in the nose. So this piece is going to be like that, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and put my little shuttle carrier on before I get it attached. There is a lot of adjustment here, so get this screw started, but if I need to move it out, I can just loosen it, push it out, or loosen it, pull it back. I'm just going to kind of go halfway and get that cinched on, and I can kind of see a line on the metal where it used to be, so I'm going to put it right there. That's a safe place to start. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to start by putting oil here, and inside of here, lots of oil, and just kind of get this started so it's not going to fall off. Now, this is going to be riding inside of there. Down a bit. There we go. So what I'm going to do, put a bit of oil on the bottom one. The top one, I'm going to also put a bit of oil, but I'm going to stick that onto the little ball here. And see, I need to be able to just kind of push this into place. Oh, that's not going to work. I need to stick this bottom one on that ball too. It's tricky. It is tricky because gravity is not your friend. You know what, that gives me an idea though. Hang on a sec. I thought I had a great idea. If I put a magnet here, will it hold this in place? And it does not. It does not carry through. So, there's that. So let me just get these settled on there. You can see I got the top one on. It's resting. Get the bottom one on. Try to line up this slot and push everything in at once. There. Yes. Okay. All right. So I've got the little ball in the middle and the two washers that are cupped around that right now. Before anything bad happens, I'm going to go ahead and put this on. And I'm just going to see. There is not a particular place that this gets pushed onto. What I want is for you not to be in the way. What I want is this all the way up to the top, and more oil up there can't hurt. Oil here. And this up all the way, but it can't be up so hard that this is bound up. So I'm just going to give it just a hair of room, not very much. And then get this, if this is too low, if you err on the side of looseness and you have a lot of gap there, your needle's not going to match up to the right place on the shuttle, and it won't make a stitch, and it'll be very noisy. So ask me how I know, All right, so let me get this cinched in. All right, now I'm going to get this screw in, which is kind of the clamp that holds this little fork together. Tight enough that it's not going to let go. Okay, so let's see. If I turn the wheel, what's going to happen? Things are moving, and I think they're moving as they should. So that is great. All right. And that is about it for the bottom. Note the patch here. There was another piece down here. Are you? Here it is. Okay. That had to do with screwing it onto the original treadle cabinet, which the owner does not have. But it is a cool piece. So I'll just stick it back on there just for funsies anyway, Looks like steampunk-ish. And yeah, that is about it for down here. So let me flip it back over. Okay, and this machine does have a boat shuttle. So instead of it loading and running on the top, it runs on the side. So of course, I do need to put oil along this side over here. On Singers, they have a little place. I'm just putting oil here because this is bare metal, and bare metal wants oil, and I'm going to rub all of that in. But on a Singer, there's a little bitty hole sometimes that you need to put a wick into and have oil in, and it kind of lubricates this whole area. And I'm not seeing anything like that on this machine. I may be blind, but I am not. I want to point out up here, there is a number. If anyone is interested, it says 430, and then it looks like the bottom of a number 1 there. I doubt that's a serial number because it's much too small, but it might have something to do with the manufacturing process. Okay, so I did clean this out. This comes up, all right? And you usually want your thread to be going underneath the bottom. And so I'm going to stick it into this little hole over here. There's a hole right there, okay? Pop it in, and then this is going to kind of clamp it in, all right? Now, I should not have got that thread caught where I did. Hang on a sec. Let's push it back up. This little part here looks like it should be where you just push it and everything comes up. Okay? It's kind of hard to get through, but using tweezers you can get to it. All right. So let's do this the proper way here, huh? I'm going to need it to come out this side opening right here. And I really should just go ahead and look up the manual for this so I can make sure that I'm actually doing this correctly. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and get this thread coming out that side opening here. Okay. And it is wrapping from the bottom. Stick that in that hole. Has to be underneath the little clampy piece, like that. Now, before I close the clamp, if I pull this, will it spin? Yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe. Okay, so it's going to set in this way, okay? And I have a little wiggle room, which is fine because thread needs to be able to pass between this shuttle and this bracket, so you need a little bit of space. But I want to see how everything lines up. It looks like it's timed upright with the needle, which makes me think that that is the correct needle height. Oh, I need to put my back plate on or else that's just going to keep wanting to happen. Hang on a sec. Good morning and welcome to the next day. So yesterday I turned off the camera because I was having trouble getting the shuttle to catch the upper thread. And I just felt like I wanted to walk away. Sometimes you have that. Plus it was getting tiring. You know, I'd been here a lot of the day. So I came back this morning and I just adjusted this position of this bracket. And I realized that I forgot to put this little bracket back on. And it has two different size screws, so I was making sure which one is which. But I've got this little bracket here that also works to keep the shuttle for being in the right position. So I'm going to go ahead and get that screwed on. All right, the thread caught this time. I'm really hopeful that I have it set properly. It seems to be quite finicky. Last night off camera, one of the reasons I turned everything off and went away is that needle that came with the machine broke while I was trying to get this adjusted. And so I walked away. But the needle that is in there right now is that number 10 boil tube. And at this point, I only have one left. So you have one of these, and it seems to be fitting, and the way that I have it placed, you can see how much of the needle head is exposed up on top. Okay, hopefully that helps somebody. But this is what is fitting. Now this needle is, it's a narrower eye. It's a very small eye, so it's a little bit harder to thread, but it does seem to be working so far. So I still need to get the tension mechanism put together, so let me work on that. Okay, so I have my little felt washers on either side here. I'm going to push that on. And then this little square washer. And then this beehive spring, and what in the world? Oh, hang on, that just got stuck in there. Okay, then this little bit here to add pressure. Still not sure exactly how we're going to make that work, but we are. Okay, so back here, this little set screw here, this is going to go right in there. I was not able to pull this off, obviously, but that's okay. Okay, now for up on top, I just realized I forgot to pull one of my plugs out. So there we go. Okay, I have a little thread guide and tension mechanism that's going to go up here. Let me get myself organized. Okay, so I have this post and this little thread guide kind of washer that goes over it. Like that. And a spring that's going to go here like that. And that whole thing pushes in like so. And I have a very tiny set screw that's going to go right there. Okay, so I'm troubleshooting at this point, and I've got my thread on, and I had to turn this to this side. I looked at a picture of another one online, and it had it over here, but for this machine, it really feels like it needs to be here, because this thread guide is what the thread passes through, and then it wraps all the way around and comes forward. Now, this is stationary, but the tension comes when you tighten this. It's harder for this to rotate. Loosening it, it's easier for it to rotate. So my tension is the rotation of that little frilled piece. Okay, so lighter tension, it rotates easier. And I'm not actually sure exactly how much tension I need right now. I'm going to loosen it up pretty much because right now I'm just trying to get it to catch the bobbin thread down there. And that does feel a bit snug. I'm wondering if I need to pull the paint off behind here so that it will move a little bit freer. This little circle right there. I think I'm going to do that real quick and put some oil on it just because that paint up against here I think is getting a little more friction than I wanted. All right, so I scraped it off. I had to do it with a bent razor blade because I chipped a bit of the paint here, so I'll have to put some touch up on that. So I had to scrape off most of what I could of the thick stuff, like so. And then come back with a little Q-tip with just a bit of thinner on it to clean up the rest. So I put my soothing music on to calm my fragile nerves at this point. And get that cleaned up. Okay, so I put it back on, and I did put some oil on that little felt washer in the back. And when I loosen this, it spins a lot freer. I don't want it to spin totally loose, but I think I'll be able to get a better dial in on that tension now. So let's just do that. Now my other issue is down here, if you notice, the needle plate is off again. So let me move you so you can see what I am seeing here. My issue right now is trying to get the shuttle to catch the needle thread, okay? So let me lift this presser foot up so we can see a little bit better. When this goes down, if I'm holding this way out, you can see it's going to go around it. And I have enough space between the bracket and the shuttle that the thread can pull through, which is lovely. But unfortunately, with the plate, I can't hold the thread way out there. It's going to go straight up and down, okay? And kind of towards the back, if you can see. So if I'm holding this so it's backwards, like this, like the needle plate would have, it's not wanting to catch. Now, granted, this would be up more, and it's a hard thing because if I put the needle plate on, you can't see, but you see how the thread wants to pop back over the top of that and miss it like that. That's what I'm dealing with right now. So I'm going to try to lower the needle just a hair and see if that will help things a bit. It might, you never know. So I'm pushing it down a bit more. Okay. So if it is lower, well here, let's do the full circle again. And this is up where that needle plate would have it, up here. Like right about there, okay? That's what I'm going to do is put this back on and see if that'll work. So I just wanted to show you that because that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. It's like, do a little thing, put the plate on, see if it works, take it off. Do a little thing. I've been adjusting this bracket back and forth. I've been adjusting the needle height up and down. adjusting all kinds of things. So when I get it, I'll show you what it looks like. Now remember how I showed you that this had 2 different openings? I'm looking at it really closely, and to me, this one looks narrower than that one. I'm going to try it with the larger one over here. And another thing I've done is I've swapped out that needle. Just ignore the cat. And I've put one of these in. It is shorter. It's a modern needle, but it has a more pronounced cutout over here on this side where the shuttle's going to be coming through. So, and it's got a bigger eye, you know, because this is a size 14. So I'm hopeful that that might work. I did have to set it lower in the little, move you back over here. I had to set it lower over here in this needle clamp. So I'm experimenting at this point, but I just wanted to show you what I'm thinking right now. Well, here's my issue. When I had the needle plate off, it looked like it might work, but these needles are round at the top. They don't have a flat side. So what that means is the entire needle, because it does not have a flat side, when I put it in, it is that way slightly. Just slightly enough that it's not going to line up with the hole, and it's going to pound into the plate. So that's not going to work either, unfortunately. Although I do like these needles. See that cutout? That's what I'm talking about. So let me go on another quest and see if I can find something that will work. All right, I want to show you something. I've pulled off my little bracket back here because while I was working on it, it seemed like my shuttle was hitting too far forward where the needle was coming down. So like say this is the needle coming down here, and the eye of the needle is where this thick spot is, okay? I need the shuttle to come so that the tip of it is over that eye. When the needle's gonna come down and make a little bounce and come up, okay? I need this hook to be where it comes down, makes that little bounce, and it wants to come up, because that's where the slack is going to be. And this is not adjustable. You cannot adjust the hook position. And the hook on this is the tip of your shuttle. Okay, that's the hook that catches the thread like that. And I wanted to show you the slot for this is very wide, because the way it works is when hang on a second. I had to prop it up so I could turn the wheel. The needle moves on this. So you see you have this wide slot. The needle's going to come down in the forward position and then scoot backwards. See, it's going to go down, make its little bump, and go up, okay? But it goes back up further back, which is why, well, the needle plate is on there, why there's a groove instead of just a little hole for the needle bar, or for the needle to go through. Hang on, let me pull it out here. Because it's actually gonna come down and then slide back and come up. That's how the walking foot on this model works. So what I'm thinking is it is not coming forward far enough before it goes back. And the only thing I can think, because I'm pushing it with my hand so that I get the maximum movement here, I'm wondering if that spring up in the nose is not operating correctly. Bringing it forward enough, because the hook has to pass it while it's still forward, because it's going to be forward, down, make its little bump, and then start to move backwards. Okay, so I need this to pass through it. Sorry about that. To pass through it while it's still in its most forward position right here. Very tricky indeed. Okay, so welcome to I don't know how many hours later. And yes, I did take a break and went and got lunch and everything, so haven't been on this all the time. I cut myself at some point, don't know how that happened. But I've got her kind of sewing. And I had to go back and recheck everything. The little supporting bracket with the 2 screws that went underneath down there. I think I had it on upside down, so I flipped that, made like 10 adjustments to it, so it's not all the way tight. It's has a little bit of play because that needs to give room for the shuttle to pass with thread going over it. The pivot arm underneath, I had to double check that nut, that little conical nut, and readjust that. Readjusted tension, I don't know how many times. This is the configuration I'm at right now. Changed needles and needle height and everything a bazillion times. Adjusted the position of this bracket, I don't know how many times. And one of the things that I think is an issue is this machine, I need to check, this is the serial number 389206, I'll look it up, but I'm guessing she's from the 1800s. So she's got, you know, a lot of time under her belt, and just like that standard, I think that this boat shuttle is a bit worn at the tip. So it is harder to grab that thread. And what I also did is I very carefully polished up the front part of this, and I put a silicone lubricant. I just grabbed that from my sewing room. Put some of that and some really good oil over the tip to make the thread want to slide over it, because it's really, really touchy. If this is far at all from the edge, it won't catch the thread. But if I have this bracket pushed in tight enough to push it up against the edge over here really tight, I don't have enough clearance here for a thread to pass through. So it's really, really finicky. But, you can see my poor little testing fabric. And you have to go super slow. So I'm watching underneath to where it catches the thread, moving forward. Oh, and that one didn't, just because I have the camera rolling. At first, there you go, that one caught. I was going to jazz this up and maybe even motorize it, but there is no way this will function with a motor at all. It just won't. Plus, this is one of those number 10 needles from the Boyle collection over there. And I only have, this is it plus one. I don't know where to get them. They're super long. If I was to put a motor or something fast on this, I'm sure that the needle would break very soon. And then we are out of business. But for right now, she's making little stitches. And I'm going to call that a success because she's had a hard go. If you remember, she was quite rusty. And these are finicky machines. And what I'm doing is I'm looking in here as that thread passes through the loop to make sure it catches. And sometimes you have to back it up and go a couple times. Oh my gosh. And now it's stuck. I have been on this thing for so long. I've backed this screw out to try to give more forward play to the needle bar. I've adjusted the spring in the back here. I've done just about everything I can think of to get this poor girl going. She kind of sews, kind of, sort of. Maybe on a full moon she will sew well, you know, but right now we can say, well, she is making stitches.